Welcome to Will's World, your will overall, powered by Third Gen Physical Therapy and Sports Science Institute.
Good morning, good afternoon, good night, and wherever you are when you're listening, thanks for listening. And we're back with another one. Before we start today's episode, please like, share, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. We're on different platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. You look for it, you will find us. And with that being said, let's hop into the episode. Today's episode is titled Don't Take It Personal. In today's episode, we're going to talk about three different aspects of this title. And the first thing we're going to talk about is that the world is a strange place, and sometimes we confuse fact with opinion. Two, it's okay if you don't talk to your friends and family every day. Three, find your why. Now, if we're going to expand on that first part, the world being a strange place, we all know that the world itself now is in a very strange place. And what we mean by that, not just from an aspect of social media and things only being shown in the highlights of their people's lives, but also in just how everything goes, from the economy, from our government, from how we live day to day, from the effects after COVID, all that. But the one thing that we can use to help separate fact and opinion is just that, the facts. So one thing we got to realize, or kind of sort of stand on, is that in this world, a lot of things you see are not real. Okay. And some things you see are real. And then some things are basically, how can I say this, born out of a opinion or something someone saw, so is out of context to begin with. And you kind of have to basically differentiate between the two, right? It's okay, like, if you are in a space where you're trying to figure out what to do next in your life, and you see a lot of your friends, traveling and showing a lot of their wins and stuff. That's cool. That can affect anyone mentally, especially when you're in a space you're trying to find yourself. But what you can't do is confuse that with everyday life, because there's a lot of things that have to take place in order for that to be a result. Like, if I'm going to travel everywhere every year, like, it's something else is at play. Like, for instance, for me personally, I love to travel. I really do. Like, if I could travel every 4 or 5 months, I would. And as a result, every 4 months, there's a trip that has to happen of some kind. And it normally happens, whether it's, 10 hours away or whether it's, 2 hours away. I've just realized within my circle, within my family and everything, that every 4 months we have to go somewhere, just because we enjoy each other's company and we just love to kind of sort of live life and spend time together. So that's our thing. The truth of the matter is that there's a lot of stuff that happens within those 3 months, 4 weeks before the fourth, the day that makes the fourth month for us to travel. A lot of sacrifices are made, a lot of things that, we're comfortable with doing or not doing. And as a result, we try our best to make sure we minimize any outside noise or any noise, period. So the truth of the matter is that it's hard to live someone else's life. You can't. Like, let's say if somebody is doing certain things that they're trying to justify their worth, right? Let's say you run into a bunch of money, or you got a job making a lot of money, and every time you see this person or they're doing something, they're always talking about how much money they got or how much money they're spending, and so on and so forth. And this could be true. This could be actually a fact. But nobody's talking about how much work goes into trying to spend that much money. And truth be told, at the end of the day, that might not be the lifestyle for you. So you can't live somebody else's life. Now, with that, you will have a situation where I like to call a transition. What I mean by transition, let's say you have friends, or you have friends from college, right? You all went to college, got out of college. Once you got out of college, everybody went their separate ways, just finding their place in the world. And then you look up and maybe one friend is making this much money, or maybe one friend is traveling that much, or maybe one friend is in these circles, or maybe one friend is, in the world of sports and professionally. We all have our different places we kind of fall into. But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean that that lifestyle is something they want at that time. Believe it or not, they could be totally unhappy, or they could be totally happy. The fact of the matter is that when you talk to them, you have these conversations, you got to keep stuff in perspective, because what happens is that they'll say something and they'll tell you something, and it could be something that they say that triggers you to say, wow, like, they're not really happy with this lifestyle, or like, wow, they're really happy with it, and maybe they're willing to share. Maybe you ask, like, hey man, so what you do? Like, how you get to that place? And maybe they'll share you with something. It may sound as corny as crap. It may sound just like this. Well, honestly, man, I try to focus on building my life, around a certain purpose and a why, and kind of sort of make sure that I do things that are within the framework of how I can live. And then I take that and I try to, make sure I put things in place to allow me to have, time off and be able to travel, or allow me to be able to, work in this type of environment because I want to be around these type of people. So there's some sacrifices I have to take with that. I work long hours. I don't really get weekends all the time. So when I take off, I really try to take off and, take care of myself and have self-care. So you may talk to that person. That's the conversation. And that conversation moves you to the next thing, which is, it's okay if you don't talk to your friends and family every single day. Sometimes, just having that silence is good, man. It's really good to be able to reflect and try to figure out how you're going to move, or what's the next move, or maybe you need to find some balance anyway, So just checking in on them from time to time don't mean they don't like you. It doesn't mean they, love you any less. It just means that maybe they have something going on. And with that, don't feel pressure to do the opposite of, like, I gotta make sure I call so they know I'm still rocking with them. That doesn't mean, anything. Somebody could just be calling because they're being nosy. Somebody could be calling because that's normal what y'all do. If that's normal what y'all do, cool. So if they don't hit you up, then you may want to reach out to them and be like, hey man, how's things going? Oh, I'm good. I just got a lot going on, or something like that. You never really know, but you can't take it personal, or don't feel pressure that you got to talk to your circle every day. Because a lot of times you don't have to, like, because a lot of times you're probably doing some things that you kind of need to, do in silence a little bit, or to kind of sort of figure out on your own, you know. And in addition to that, you need to make sure that when you're doing that, though, that you really are doing it for the right reasons. When you're not talking to your friends and family, you have some things that you are really locked in on or trying to figure out. And honestly, at that time, you may not have the time to sit on the phone for an hour. Maybe you only have 5 minutes. You know who you're going to call. They're going to need an hour because it's just what they are, what your relationship is with them. So, truth be told, a lot of times that can actually, become a problem. So let me give you another perspective of that too. You also can call your friend and family to share things with them, right? And let's say you share an actual accomplishment or something you've done that's great, and you get a negative response. Maybe not negative in the point of like, oh, you still suck at life. No, like something negative like, oh, okay. Well, that's really nothing. I don't, I wouldn't do that. Something like that, where it's maybe off putting. What you have to accept is that as you start to move through life or move in different places in life, what happens, man, like, whether it's indirectly or unintentionally, people's limitation on you in your life, that they have in their mind, when you exceed that or you start doing things that are above that, sometimes it affects them. That's why you can't take it personal. And honestly, they shouldn't either, but sometimes they do. We're human, but you shouldn't take it personal, because that's when you miss out on your growth and what you got going on, and focusing on, just trying to get to the next thing, because the only thing you're doing is living your life. You're just trying to get to the next place. Um, you know, in one of my, my favorite sayings is that if a person has an issue with something you're doing, it costs them nothing. Pay you no mind. Like, it really doesn't cost them a thing. They could not pay attention. But if you start to realize that the people you're calling and you're checking in with, your friends and family, are starting to shift or switch a little bit, it's okay. Understand such is life, and check yourself too. Make sure that, hey, you're in the right space, as far as like, hey man, I don't know what I'm doing to incite this type of a response, but if you feel like you're in the right space, then just understand, like, some people will just maybe don't need to share your actual dream, or your actual, accomplishments with everybody. Maybe it's just something you just have to keep living, and as time goes on, man, people will appreciate it or not. But at the same time, that's why you have to find your why you're doing what you're doing. Why are you either on top of the world and doing these great things, or you're building to it and you're kind of in a place of, how can I say this, in a place of starting, you're at the beginning. Some people look at, what you have and say, well, you don't have what I have, and as a result, you're not doing great at life. You don't know what you're doing. Like, you're wasting time. But truth be told, that's not true. Like, everybody has their own, why. The one thing that you have to make sure though when you find your why is that it is purpose tied to it, because what'll happen is that no matter how much money you make, man, like just real, this is real right here. No matter how much money you make, you will spend it if you have no reason for making it except to live life. I promise you, if somebody gives you $10,000, $15,000, you will burn through it if you have no purpose, reason why you have encountered this money. You don't know what to do with it except enjoy it. And maybe that's your life and that's cool. Cool. But at the same time, there has to be some end game, because at some point in time, this money's going to stop coming in, right? You're not going to be able to sustain that lifestyle or sustain yourself. So as a result, it can't just be focused around trying to make a certain amount of cash, because I promise you, it's not going to fulfill you. You're not going to be as happy as you think you're going to be. Like, you're going to have a lot of like empty days. So at the end of the day, I'm hoping that you're working towards something or trying to put that towards a thing to be able to get you in a space where maybe your purpose or your why or what you're doing it for, what you're trying to get to, is able to be achieved quicker rather than later. Somebody asked me what my why is. I can be honestly tell you that, I'm just trying to build a better life for, my family, period. Like, I don't look at like I have to spend every single dollar, because it's pointless. Like, I actually enjoy life very simply. I can really enjoy life doing, something simple as sitting out on my backyard and looking, into the sky at the sun, and barbecuing on the grill, fishing a little bit. Like, I've seen life in so many different aspects already. So in essence, for me, like the peace, the serenity is what I, am more drawn to. So why I'm doing stuff to make sure that the people who come after me don't have to do as much as I did to get to where I got to. So hopefully they can get to their why quicker and be able to build on it. Because at the end of the day, like, um, it's not really what you do, is what you leave behind, and what people admire, or people who have met you are influenced by your absence, in my opinion. Could I be wrong? Sure. I could definitely be wrong. That's fine. Like, but that's my why. Now, my purpose and all that stuff is a little bit different of a world. So I don't take it personal when some people don't understand what I'm doing or how I'm doing what I'm doing. I don't take it personal. I just don't. Because I look at it and say, hey, man, the world is a strange place. Sometimes we confuse fact with opinion. Sometimes we have to be emotional. And it's okay if you don't talk to everybody all the time. You don't have these conversations explaining to them why you're doing what you're doing. Because truth be told, you're trying to find your why, not why they should accept what you're doing. The quicker you do that, man, the better off you will be. And honestly, you won't take it personal or have a cloudiness, and you don't lose your clarity on what you need to be doing to get to the next place in your life. With that being said, man, I hope in today's episode reach somebody, help somebody. If it didn't help you, maybe you know somebody that can help, so maybe you can share it with them. And if you have any comments or any questions, please, man, feel free to leave them in the comments, and we'll definitely respond to them. And with that being said, I hope you have a blessed one. I'll catch you in the next one.